think I'm making this happen. Here we go. We got to go live on Instagram now. I'm still running it solo, guys. Hey, everybody, let me stop this music. Let's stop this here. There we go. Hey, and we'll stop this music and cue the construction, which is happening right outside my door. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but that's going to be ambient noise here in the background as we have our conversations throughout the day. And I haven't worn this shirt in a while. Hopefully, we'll get through it. Okay. Hey, it's Thursday. It is March 5th, and there was a big election in Texas this week, and we're going to get into all of that. The power of Latino vote. Is it shifting? Are Latinos going back towards the Republican or away from the Republican Party and towards the Democratic Party with soft landing candidates like Bobby Polito, the former, or I guess current, Tejano star, James Tallarico. Potentially, he's got promise here to be the next Democratic senator, potentially, of the state of Texas. So we'll get into all of that. But I wanted to start first with some breaking news here of what we had been reporting on last week. This is a report that surfaced late yesterday with ICE planning to shut down Camp East Montana in Fort Bliss. And if you remember our reporting, we were there last week. I went in alongside Rob Held, who is an attorney. And he asked me in as an interpreter and to translate some stuff. He has a client in there, only speaks Spanish. We went in there and I reported out what I saw. The details included inmates, detainees describing a painful rash that was literally all over the bodies of several women, including parts of their feet, their legs, even their genitals. It turns out that red rash, that infection, which they had been labeled, it was labeled by the medical professionals there as just a sort of fungal infection. It was measles, which if you talk to any public health professional, they will tell you that is the most contagious viral infection. It spreads fast, especially among communities that are unvaccinated. And they had been dealing with this for at least 4 months, according to the testimonies that we had heard. So it's just been officially diagnosed as a measles outbreak, but it's not just happening, is what I'm trying to say. This is the same thing that they'd been dealing with months and months ago. So the result of which was Representative Veronica Escobar. She called for it to be shut down. Now, this report, Washington Post is reporting Camp East Montana is expected to be shut down here. Let me get this off the screen. And how do we go back up? There we go. Okay. So Camp East Montana is expected to be shut down. I checked in a short time ago with the wife of somebody who's detained in there. I want to get the details. What are they going to do with the people that are inside? Where are they going to go? Right now, we're getting conflicting information. We're told by the wife of somebody detained that the guards had told those inside be prepared to be moved as soon as this weekend. I spoke to another attorney who's got contact with a female client inside, and they don't know anything. They said they're really just not given any details, and they don't expect much change to happen in the short term. So for now, we have the headline, Camp East Montana is going to be closed, and I think you got to take your W's where you can. That's, to us, some of the power of journalism. So I wanted to start with that breaking news that we had, or that developing story. And I wanted to pivot now to other things happening in Texas of consequence. You may have heard of a primary going on between Jasmine Crockett, popular former lawmaker, former representative out of Texas, who chose to run for Senate. Then emerged a couple weeks ago this name that we started really hearing a lot about, James Tallarico. And in fact, when we were in El Paso, we missed him by a matter of maybe like an hour or two. He stopped by the popular restaurant there, L&J Cafe, for like a meet and greet. Anyway, I wanted to bring on Democratic strategist Chuck Rocha. But before I did that, I wanted to have you guys listen to his take as to why this race was so consequential, why Tallarico beat out a sort of more brand name like Jasmine Crockett, and what the secret sauce was here. Check it out.
Win. He had the full effect of a great team, a great message. He's a great candidate, and he assembled the right folks to actually get it done. It's like grassroots organizing combined with paid advertising in digital, TV, radio, around sporting events, and a robust Latino advertising campaign in Spanish, in English, but a lot of Spanish advertising, a lot of advertising in the Valley. There's going to be a lot written about the Latino vote and the strength of the Latino vote, and are Latinos moving back to the left? Well, last night proved one thing for damn sure. They will move back for James Tallarico if you show up and give them a hopeful message.
So that was Chuck Rocha. Chuck Rocha joins us now live on Nick Valencia Live. We'll add him to the stage here. Chuck, man, what a take. So nice to hear from you. How are you?
I'm great, brother. Good to see you. And thank you for all your work in El Paso. I was following your trip there, and I'm glad that there was some independent journalists who had the cojones to actually show up there and go in and see what you saw. It's very important, and I don't take that lightly.
And I want to talk about this, about not playing by the rules, because some people would push back maybe on what I did as maybe skirting the lines of journalism. I never misidentified myself, Chuck. But if you are playing by the rules as a journalist, you have to put in this huge request with ICE. It never gets fulfilled. And then no one ever gets inside. What happens when we do get inside? We're able to tell the details and these horrific details, and then you see action. And so anyway, I want to pivot back to your involvement with Tallarico. Sort of what you saw and why this was such a huge moment for the Latino vote and also for this candidate.
Because you have covered this. I have talked about it with Mike Madrid at nauseum, in case I'm using nauseum right. The big words confuse me sometimes. But we've talked about this Latino electorate, Latino voters who are younger than the average voter. They're newer to America, and how they've become the new soccer mom. If you want to know a swingy vote in America, it's Latino voters. And let me make my case. They've been staunchly Democratic for numbers of years in the 60s and 70s and 80s through Kennedy and Obama and Hillary, where they had some of their biggest numbers. And then they started swinging back to the right as second and third generation Latinos come of age. The electorate changes dramatically. Back before then, it was mainly immigrant based. Now it's second and third, and they start voting not overwhelmingly, but moving in a dramatic fashion over a number of years towards Trump and some Republicans. So they became this, and then they moved back to the Democrats in the off-year election this year. So this vote is moved back and forth, but it's the most dramatic in a place like the Texas Valley and in Miami, two places that saw not 10%, not 20%, but in some cases 30% movement from year to year with this electorate. So what you saw last night or a couple nights ago in Texas was another dramatic shift. Donald Trump does extremely well with Latinos in just 2024 in Texas. And a year and a couple months later, they move back to the left and vote overwhelmingly for a guy named James Tallarico that I worked for. And that's really upsetting the apple cart in the Republican Party, because Donald Trump demanded that they redraw a bunch of congressional seats, and they based it off of how well Donald Trump did in 2024 with Latinos. So now they've got 5 new seats, 4 of which are majority Latino, that if he underperforms by less than 10 points, a lot of those seats go to Democrats when Republicans thought they had those in the bag.
So what's the short answer here as to why you're seeing Latinos who voted for Trump in 2024 now, the first chance they get to vote in a big election, they're shifting back, or they're shifting towards Democrats? What do you see as the reason?
There's 2 things. There's a lot of economic anxiety within the community, coupled with what you've been covering, which is this anxiety of ICE and immigration raids and folks in our streets and folks getting pulled over for a stoplight and then getting taken to Mexico. And the only thing they've done, quote unquote, illegal was cross the border 25 years ago for the American dream. That's what's really
going on. That they were told one thing and they're now seeing another. Is it that plain?
It's that plain. Plus, with Tallarico, you have a guy with a hopeful, joyous message of the happy rebellion of saying we don't have to hate each other. We can love our neighbor.
Oh, okay.
You can look behind me. This is a rally sign from his rally, not that one, but the one that says love your neighbor is on the back of the Tallarico signs in the rally. So he's not just saying it. He has it on his rally signs that we should love each other, which is really dramatic.
He's saying some really interesting things. I want to show you some of the things he said punching at the Democratic Party, and then we'll talk about it on the other side here.
The party has forgotten how to fight. But this critical moment in our country's history demands fighters, not folders. Imagine a Democratic Party that takes on big money and isn't captured by it. Imagine a Democratic Party that listens to the people, not DC consultants. Imagine a Democratic Party that uses every tool in the toolbox and plays to the fullest extent of the rules. And imagine a Democratic Party that delivers for people on housing, healthcare, and education, and actually defeats the right-wing extremists who have taken over this country.
Sounds pretty presidential there. He's saying a lot of the right things. He's also kind of calling out Dems. That was from August of 2025. What do you see in sort of the evolution of the candidate there, and also the messaging that you heard?
This is the most important thing I'll say on this program. Nobody knew James Tallarico 6 months ago. Everybody knew Jasmine Crockett. That's a Democratic primary voter. His message is just a message in the woods if he doesn't have a way to get it to people for them to meet him. Just because he shows up and me and you talk about him don't mean that the average American, the average Texan in this case, actually sees him. What James Tallarico really did that made him win overwhelmingly the Latino vote was something me and you've been talking about a long time. He took a bunch of resources and took his message and bought a whole lot of Spanish language TV, Spanish radio, Spanish digital, and then went to those communities and backed it up with the rallies that you just saw. That's called the same thing I did for Ruben Gallego and the same thing I did for Bernie Sanders, which is a multi-layered bilingual communication strategy coupled with a really strong, vibrant volunteer apparatus, which, by the way, was 28,000 volunteers strong. You can't just do one or the other. When you do both, you get what Bernie had with the Latino vote, what Ruben had, and what you saw on election night with a special candidate, with a special message, is James Tallarico overwhelmingly winning the Latino vote. I would ask everybody to look at the New York Times article that dropped today that shows county by county how he overperformed in every single Latino county and how that delivered him the primary election victory.
And so is he this like super progressive candidate, or tell us more about, for those of us that don't really know too much about him, other than, he's a great orator. He's very obviously put together and he knows what he wants. He's sort of mission oriented. Why is he like the candidate? Because I saw in your analysis, you were saying it's not just all of these other factors, right? What you just said, the numbers, it's him. So what is it about him?
The reason people vote for somebody is because they like them. People in Washington, D.C., people in New York City, they come up with all these algorithms and all these models and all of these thesis papers that says they have to have the perfect candidate. When at the end of the day, Nick, if a Mexican redneck who grew up in a trailer house in East Texas could give you a little wisdom, it is people vote for who they trust and who they like. They got so disillusioned by Democrats just a few years ago that they were like, anybody's better than Joe Biden. He may be right on all the issues, but I don't like him, and I think he's old. We don't even really like Donald Trump, but we trust him more because he's not from the system that broke all of this shit. So we have to get a lot more simplistic about the way we talk. And then you add in that Tallarico's kind of like a theologian. Now, I don't know if I used that word right, but he knows a lot about
You're
the
using
Bible.
the big words right on here, okay? Woo! You got it. You're nailing it.
Yeah, my mom would be so proud. He knows a lot about the Bible. And so when he goes out and talks to people, he talks to them about loving their neighbor, like that sign behind me says.
Yeah.
He talks about what we should be doing, and people see this reflected in themselves when he's like, look, I don't hate you because you're Republican, and we shouldn't hate each other because we're Republican or because we're brown or black. We're going to disagree on things. Let's talk about that. But there are billionaires that are driving us to hate each other while we should be looking left and right and loving each other. And me and you, and you're shaking your head now, Nick, because most politicians just don't talk like that anymore.
Well, you lobbed this up for a clip that I took from Joe Rogan, where he like seemed to win over Joe Rogan with what he was talking about. That's exactly what he says. And we're going to talk about Bobby Polito next, but it's a similar message. It's like, I'm not from the red team or the blue team. I'm really sort of seeing this as a top versus bottom kind of thing. Listen what he said to Joe Rogan here.
Politics now less as left versus right and much more as top versus bottom. Yeah. Because you're right. I just see how we are all pitted against each other. Mm-hmm. And I mean literally. Sure. These social media platforms, they only get clicks when there's conflict. Mm-hmm. Right? They don't get clicks when we're having a conversation, when we're understanding each other.
Right.
That doesn't get anybody any profit.
Right.
And so the Rupert Murdochs of the world, the cable news networks, the social media platforms, the Zuckerbergs and Musks, these platforms are literally tearing us apart.
You're onto something. I think what you're saying is absolutely true, though, that it's not us versus them. It's the top versus the bottom.
And I don't know if everyone is fully awake to that we're getting played.
I don't think people are. And I think you saying it is very important.
So you hear him say that to Joe Rogan. You hear a guy with the influence like Joe Rogan saying, I think it's really important. And then you start to see the actual results in the ballot box. Maybe some of those Joe Rogan listeners, I'd like to think, were convinced by some of the words that they heard. What do you think?
I think that scares the dog shit out of Republicans. That's what I think. I think that they think they own the flag and they own the Bible, and they don't know neither one.
American flag, just to be like, dude, you don't just get to own the flag.
No,
right?
That's why I wear this shirt. This is from Vote Vets. They're a veterans organization. They're like, no. We don't have kings. I fought for a constitution, right? And I'm honored to work with vote vets. But that's why I liked and wanted to work for James Tallarico. That's why I worked for Ruben Gallego. Like, I really pick and choose somebody when I go to work for them that I truly believe can really make a difference. And James Tallarico saying it ain't the left versus the right, top versus the bottom, opens up the door to lots of independents who are like, I've been looking for somebody who's not some crazy left-wing zealot or some crazy right-wing zealot, but talking about economic populism, about what you're going to do to make daycare cheaper. What are you going to do to bring down my utility bills? And now, what are you going to do to bring gas prices down, since we're bombing Iran and gas just went up a quarter this week?
It's really difficult. I heard a great phrase. It's really difficult to be passionately moderate. And there's majority, I think, of the country doesn't want this zealot-like atmosphere that we're experiencing right now, which introduces us to the next candidate here. We have Bobby Polito, and he's another guy that emerged from an area, South Texas. I know it is a very conservative place, man. People there they have big feelings about immigration, about illegal immigration, because they're directly impacted by it. Hay muchos pijos, as we say in Espanol. There's a lot of high class, Mexicans there. So I want to play Bobby Polito's message. Do I have it pulled up here? I think this is. Anyway, let's. While I look for that, why don't you talk to me about Bobby Polito and sort of why he is landing as well with some of these voters in South Texas?
First of all, let's talk about the district that Bobby Polito's running in. It's a district that's like a piece of bacon running from straight up Texas from McAllen. So it goes up like a skinny piece of bacon, curved like a piece of bacon, around Corpus Christi, around in between San Antonio, up and down, north and south. And it's 80%, 75% Latino. So it's a heavy Latino district anchored in McAllen that runs straight up in the media markets of San Antonio and Corpus, but don't go into either city, right? So Bobby Polito is a Grammy-winning Latin artist who's been around for a long time down there singing Mexican music, and he's very popular. This district was gerrymandered to become even more Republican, which is really, really important. This, on paper, is a Republican plus 15 seat. That means it is 15% more Republican than Democrat. But Nick, here's the dagger. That's based off of the 2024 Trump math. So you saw in this district, in the Democratic primary, 3 times as many Democrats voting as Republicans, showing that there's a giant shift back. You also saw all across Texas, not only 30% of the electorate that had no Democratic primary voters, that were new voters, mainly from general election voters, but here's a kicker. 12% of the Democratic primary voters had a voting history where they had voted in the Republican primary in the past. We could see that. That's how you know something very special is going on. And Bobby Polito, who is a true blue Texas, South Texas Democrat.
Everything about him, right?
He is Chuck Rocha, but better spoken and better Spanish. I may sing a little better than Bobby, but don't y'all tell him that. I don't want that my secret to get out. But Bobby's a great candidate. And he actually had a primary in Texas from his left by a very qualified Latina doctor who spent $1 million against him, but Bobby still won by 20 points. I think he is uniquely qualified to be somebody who flips one of these gerrymandered seats that I started talking about at the beginning of the program.
Let's listen. This is the ad that I was looking for. I cut a little bit of it here and part of his messaging here.
Raising 4 boys here. Hell, I don't even have health insurance because it's too expensive. I know for us, immigration is a human issue and an economic issue. Good families torn apart, y nuestra comunidad living in fear. I'm sick of seeing that. Yes, we have to get the criminals out and secure the border, but we can do that without destroying families and our South Texas economy.
Now look, I put on my straw hat so you know I look better than Bobby Polito in a good straw hat, but I also want to give Bobby Polito some flowers. He was on the Mike Madrid and Chuck Rocha Latino Vote podcast, and he said one of the most
great show.
One of the most unique lines that captivated South Texas to me when I was like, well, this district is one of the poorest districts in the country that has the lowest household income. It's on the border. What's going to be your strategy to reach all these working class Latinos who are poor and just trying to make it? And he said, Chuck, he said, in South Texas, y'all should write this down. He said, down in South Texas, we don't see ourselves as poor. We just see ourselves as broke. I was like, holy shit. First of all, I'm stealing that for TV. B, that is exactly right. Folks who don't have no money don't think they're going to be poor their whole life. They're broke today, and they hope they can get rich tomorrow.
Right.
That's the aspirational.
And you can do it here in this country. Right.
Look
and
at me and you, Nick.
Right.
Look at your story that I know well. You know my story. Neither one of us would have been thinking our families a million years that we would have these platforms to do the thing that we do. Our family's journey and sacrifice has made it available for us to live America's dream and riches while seeing that she's not perfect, and we can fight to try to make it as perfect as we can.
No one is perfect but God. And I really believe that. And I have grown to talk more about my faith because I think not one party can corner the market on faith or the flag, like that's, I think, what is attractive to Texans who are voting. And so this leads me to our next question here. Polito, Tallarico, they're doing great in Texas. The Dems, they have to win nationally. So how do they take that momentum that we're seeing, right? And like places even like Tennessee's 7th congressional district that like they had a chance. It was closer than they thought it would be. How did they take that momentum?
There's two things you have to do to win an election. The first thing you have to do is campaigns 101. You have to disqualify the person that's there. Say why they're not qualified to be there anymore. That's easy right now because you can say they're Donald Trump, they're cutting Medicaid, they've got ICE in the streets, they're doing all this bad shit, and you can say we're not them. We're really good at Democrats at doing that part. Okay. The second part we have more of a struggle at, but we're getting better, is then you have to tell them your vision for why they should hire you. We spend a lot of time saying why we should fire the Republicans because of what Donald Trump and the Republicans in Congress are doing, which is heinous. Cutting Medicaid, going to all the things. You can name and pick your thing.
All bad, but you could say it's just bad. What's your plan next, right?
That's then you pivot and say, but here, and this is what I've been telling my clients. This is what James Tallarico does. And then here's my plan for working Texans. Here's my plans for working Californians. My plan is to lower your costs by doing this, to get you more money in your wages by doing this. And just like the New Jersey governor who won in November, the first thing she did, because she promised people she was going to address utility prices, is she signed an executive order freezing the utility costs. And it can't go up no more because it's a disaster, right? And she could do that because she created a state of an emergency. That means people will trust her. Democrats have to say the thing they're going to do and then actually do it. We've been fighting for a long time and wringing our hands about all the bad shit that Republicans are doing when we should get to work. Let me give you a James Tallarico quote. He probably wasn't the originator of this, but I heard him say it last Sunday in San Antonio. He said, it's hard to wring your hands when you're rolling up your shirt sleeves.
Damn.
That's good shit right there, right?
Damn. Okay.
Yeah. That's why I'm saying this is special. And people gravitate to that because they're like, yeah, let's go to work. Let's get to work on doing and fixing this thing.
It's almost like Dems are winning back the working class is sort of the take that you're giving, right? And I'm thinking, what I'm thinking right now is like they were always sort of stereotypically there for the Dems, but then you have like a candidate like Hillary Clinton that calls working class people deplorable, pushes them towards another side. You get another candidate that they don't really, in Kamala, it's like, who is this? We talked about a little bit about maybe a misogyny problem among Latinos. I know it's not exclusive to our community, but did they have a problem voting for a woman? Like, what's the hope in 2026 and beyond for Dems as you see it as a strategist?
When James Tallarico talks about it, he talks about it in faith, family, and affordability. Those three things are really important to people. And Democrats have done a bad job at talking about the first two. And now we talk about affordability as a term, but not about what it means. Affordability means daycare. It means not only the price of your groceries, but just everyday shit, right? Like your insurance payment. Like I just got my tax bill in DC. Like every time somebody gets another bill, they have to think about where is that money going to come from for the thing. We, as Democrats, have to pivot then to talk about work and how the sanctity of work and how we should be making more money at work, how you should have more time with your family, and how we could try to help you make ends meet without just saying, let's help you make ends meet by saying, we're going to do this with utility bills. We're going to hold these corporations accountable to do this thing with your wages. We're going to do this with actual trade policy. Some trade policy is good. We're going to demand that more manufacturing here. We're going to demand that if for every AI job that's lost, we're going to make you have to pay this thing if you replace somebody with some AI technology. That's real. We have to address that. These are things that the Democratic Party has a bad brand, but a lot of that had to do with Joe Biden. These working class Americans, a lot of Latinos, are willing to forgive that for somebody like a Bobby Polito or a James Tallarico or other Democrats that may win these primaries. They did it for Ruben Gallego, who's behind me on the wall there. They could relate with Ruben because they could see themselves in Reuben. We have to have more of that if we actually want to win elections.
One of the things that Democrats have going for them is that our memories are short, but our political memories are even shorter. You have a guy like Trump who gets reelected after January 6th, after all the family separation, after like he had convinced the American public, I'm not going to go on a revenge path. Project 2025 is just some headline. And then it's like, that's what's happening. I started to see it with the Epstein files. I was in the Central Valley when that first started percolating last summer, and the Let's Go Brandon flag started coming down from the flagpoles in the Central Valley. We're seeing it now in terms of voting in the ballot box in South Texas. In just a few minutes that we have left, what do you anticipate happening in these coming months here as we steamroll towards the midterms?
You're going to see Democrats pick up momentum. You're going to see the Republicans continue to tear themselves apart, like in a runoff in Texas on the Republican side of the Senate primary. You're going to see more states and districts come online. But what I mean by that is there's a certain amount of marginal seats that kind of flip back and forth, 50-50 seats. But you see Democrats overperforming so much that they're going to put new seats on the playing field. And for the first time in American history, there will be more majority Latino seats in play than ever before because of our third big word, our diaspora has grown. And because it's grown, it's more than just San Antonio and LA. Now it's more than the Central Valley. Now you have all these districts that's 20 and 30% Latino where their voices are really going to matter. And right now they've been under attack based off of your reporting and my knowledge. Folks are really, really aggravated at what they're seeing. They're like, I risked my life. My mother and father risked their life to come here. And this is not the America that we signed up for. We're better than this. Hence why Tallarico's doing better. And that's what keeps me optimistic as we move into this election is you're going to see a lot of change moving towards November.
You know, it's this feeling that the institutions have been corrupted and this top versus bottom kind of thing. Also, I want to give you your flowers. You got in diaspora, theologian, and there was another big word that you dropped in, Chuck Rocha. I forget what it was.
I ain't never been to college, but I talk a lot of shit.
Hey, if you guys want to catch up with Chuck Rocha, he has a podcast with Mike Madrid, another brilliant political mind. It's called the Latino Vote Podcast. You could also catch him on his Substack show. He's got one we've been on before. Chuck,
Rocha Revolution.
Rocha Revolution. The stage is yours. Go ahead. Plug yourself.
Look, the Rocha Revolution is where I give a little space and a little grace every Wednesday. Sometimes we move it to Thursday, all depending if got something going on. But come by and see us on the Rocha Revolution. Sign up, subscribe, do all the things, hit the buttons, like it, unlike it, come on and share it, call your mama, all those things.
You could also see him on CBS and, of course, my former home, CNN. That's where we first met. Great guy. Can't wait to see you in D.C., Chuck. Thank you so much for taking the time with us.
Keep it going.
You got it. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. That was Chuck Rocha, and we will keep it going. And we're going to pivot next to our next guest, who I believe I saw join in the room a short time ago. Yeah, Ariane Betancourt is in the room here. I want to play a story that we did on her. Ariane is, just like Chuck, one of these really dynamic personalities. I mean, she could probably have her own show, her own podcast. She is incredibly well-spoken, and it's authentic. It's not this performance, right? It's really... she's stepping up to meet a moment because there's a moment to meet. Her father was taken into custody. Her father has severe medical conditions that need treatment that he is not getting. Ariane has been fighting for her father's freedom. She's been traveling around the country. She left her job as a tour guide in South Florida, and she has shown up in places that matter. More recently, she was at the hearing for Kristi Noem, DHS secretary, where she was part of a group of families who had loved ones in detention. I want to play you a clip of her here and what happened there, and then we'll talk to Ariane on the other side.
Immigrants. What? Stand with immigrants. Right. We stand with immigrants. Put the stick on immigrants.
You want to know who we are? We are families who lost loved ones to illegal alien crime.
We are families who have families detained in an inhumane system, oppressing them, violating their basic human rights.
And Ariane Betancourt joins us now live on Nick Valencia Live. Thank you, Ariane. It's so nice to see you again. Yes.
Nice to see you.
Oh, you too. I'm so proud of you because I know how hard it is in a moment to get out words, not let alone like words that land like that. I mean, like, how were you able to get your message across so succinctly in the moment that you had right there in that clip that we just played?
Anger. anger. We were sitting behind, we were supposed to sit in the front row. They invited us to the hearing. They asked us to speak at the hearing. And then they sat us next to the angel families, and they were like, they didn't want to sit next to the immigrants. So they moved us. We were sitting behind them. They had an issue with us being behind them. They moved us again. And after they moved us the first time, I was triggered. And they kept talking that, I kind of saw their intent on trying to like take over the narrative of the situation, and kind of, I spent 5-6 hours at the hearing my community, my people being villainized, being dehumanized. And I'm in DC, in the capital of our nation, just seeing firsthand how I'm being racially profiled at this event, how I'm being treated less than because of my complexion. And not just that, but the fact that why is our pain any less than their pain? I mean, it's sad that they lost family members to any sort of violent crime or to drug overdoses. It's a sad situation, but their pain isn't any different than ours.
Yeah, it's always, to me, selective reasoning. I mean, I have to say this, to be frank. An undocumented immigrant, an immigrant is more likely to be the victim of a crime, especially a violent crime, than to.
Yeah, and it's like the way that their the statistics on like, oh, these, you bring in 10 families that have been victims to crimes done by immigrants. How about you bring in people of color who have been victims of crimes done by white men? I mean, women of color are...
And they have no reservation about making you guys and sort of verbally attacking you guys. I didn't know if you guys caught this, but I want to play this clip again, and you could hear, I don't know who this is in the background, but you could hear, Ariane, someone say, sort of mocking to the tone of saying "stand with immigrants" because it was done in an accent. You could hear someone in the background say, "What?"
What? Yeah.
Right. So I want to play that so others can hear it too. Here, I'm new at this thing, running it solo here. Let's see.
Immigrants. What? Stand with immigrants. Right. Stand with immigrants. What? Stand with immigrants.
So it's like that kind of behavior. Who was that? Who are those people around there?
So most of the people that were at the hearing were angel families, or people that, Christine Nome has direct contact with. And it's sad to see that these families are being used for political propaganda, because realistically, they're using their pain to create a narrative that's hateful. So from my perspective is, you are not helping these families grieve. You are just cultivating more hate. You're enticing them to be more hateful, because those women in the crowd absolutely had no reason to act the way that they did, to complain about not wanting to sit next to the immigrants. And the fact that the people at the Senate hearing went along with the racism and moved us, and then tried to feed me a nonsense excuse as, no, we sat you in the wrong section. We've been sitting there for 2.5 hours, and now you notice a mistake and now you want to fix it. So I said it, and I was just like, maybe if I would have been wearing a red suit and a hat that said MAGA Mom, I would have been able to sit here.
I mean, of course you would have been treated differently. What was the atmosphere like? You were there with shoulder to shoulder with other family members who had loved ones in detention. Talked about your dad.
So it was 5 of us that traveled together. We met through the vigils. Janet, I met because my dad and her fiance were detained together, and they were like, hey, these two sound like they would be friends. Let's connect them. And, we've created a beautiful friendship over the last couple of months. And I think for us to sit there and to hear how our people are being dehumanized, to hear how this racist rhetoric has become so normalized that when they are speaking on undocumented individuals, they don't refer to them as human beings. At no point in time during that hearing were they referred to as humans. They referred to as illegals, as aliens, but at no point were they referred to as human beings. And it's just, for me, as an American-born citizen, it's disappointing, it's discouraging to see Kristi Noem have zero accountability and to lie under oath, not just to the American people, to the Senate and to the families of the detainees that are sitting right behind her, knowing that everything she is stating is false, that they are not receiving adequate medical care, that they are starving them in there, that they don't have access to water, they don't have access to showers, to bathrooms. I mean, it's a torture camp. It's a torture camp. And for her to sit there and lie to the American people and to still be in this position of power, I mean, that's how you know the system is rigged. Because any other job, any other real job, someone as incompetent as Kristi Noem would have been replaced already.
You know, it is basic human standards are non-existent. And I know that these facilities people have called them concentration camps. And I'm reluctant to use that because I think it's so distinctly, the gas chambers, the Holocaust. I don't want to falsely conflate the two. I was just in a detention center. And then I hear stories all around from these private prisons. And I understand why people say concentration camps. I don't want to be critical of that. Everyone, use the words that you want. To me, they aren't so much death camps as they are a place where people die slowly, and that is the formula.
Yeah, they kill your mind and your hope and they kill your humanity. You're still alive, but your humanity's gone. You have no dignity. I mean,
they force you to want to give up. I want to play this clip of you outside of Vigil or talk about it on the other side because, we mentioned how, Ariane, that you've been traveling around the country. You have been especially active in South Florida, outside of Alligator Alcatraz, where your father was. Is he held? Is he back there now? Or
he's back there now. After they took him into Mexico and tried to deport him, they took him back to Alligator Alcatraz.
So we're going to play this clip of you outside the Vigil, and then I want to talk to you about all this shuffling around of your dad here.
Week after week, I'm here as much as I can be because I love my father so much that I know that the one thing that I cannot lose is hope. And a lot of times people ask me, how do I do anything? And how do I stand tall? And how do I still make jokes? And I still laugh and I'm still myself even through all of this. And it's because I love my dad and I know that he would want me to be happy, even if I can't be. He wouldn't want me to stop being myself because of this situation.
It makes me so sad to know that you're in this situation, but also strangely proud to also see a daughter standing up for her dad. And so I know what you have done. I want you to tell the people that are watching what you have been through.
As we've previously shared, I was a tour guide for almost a decade. I had a very easygoing, fun job. I mean, it was stressful because there was a lot of logistics and management and everything. But when I was doing my job, I was enjoying what I was doing. I was genuinely happy. I loved sharing my culture and my history with people. And I think tour guiding made me proud of my background more than any other thing I've done before. Because when you take people from different cultures and different countries and you take them to Calle Ocho and you show them the liveliness, how everyone is so friendly. I mean, I worked in Calle Ocho. I grew up in Little Havana. I worked in Calle Ocho forever. I know all of the locals. And when you walk around and they see everyone saying hi to each other, "Quieres cafecito?" and pouring you a shot, like they see how our communities are lively and they're like, "Oh my God, why is everyone so happy? Why is this community so colorful?" And I'm like, because when you're oppressed for so many years and you have one little place where you can keep your history and your culture alive, it becomes home outside of home. I mean, Little Havana in the 80s was considered a place you didn't want to go to because Cubans were considered so criminal. And now it is one of the most popular tourist sites in Miami. So, it's all, I feel like Latinos have been villainized at different points in history. This is not the first time. I mean, I think people of color in general, minorities, have been villainized.
Yeah.
And it's not that we are failures or we are less than. It's that the system in place was designed to fail us. It's not that we failed. The system has failed us. And I went from having such a carefree, like, I'm wearing my little tennis outfit and I'm walking up and down Cayocho, drinking coffee, having pastelitos, to being at the front lines, going to protest, getting tear gas, getting pepper bombed. I mean, just I've put myself in this position where I'm not only being vocal, but I'm being public. And I know that that comes with the risk and the of retaliation. And I've seen what they're doing to people who are doing what I'm doing and trying to arrest them and call them domestic terrorists. I mean, journalists can't even report the news without being considered domestic terrorists. I mean, they took Don Lemon.
I got banned from a detention center because of what I saw and reported out.
So it's I think I'm doing everything that I am because I know that our rights are at risk. And if I'm going to lose my rights, I'm not going down without a fight, because I'm seeing what's happening to my dad in there, who has no human rights. So as a country, I mean, this administration, everything that's going on is absolutely despicable. It is the most un-American period of America in the 250 years of its history.
We first met for the first time in Minneapolis, and I interviewed there, and I put a piece together on Ariane. I want to play part of that piece here now and just sort of play a little bit of the story that you shared with us back then, because I thought it was so, just what you said was so powerful here.
I'm an adult, and me having to process this has been the hardest thing that I've ever had to endure.
Who is he, Ari? Tell me about your father.
My father, who's still been in court, is my best friend. So my father was detained by ICE on October 29th of last year at his routine check-in at the Miramar Center in Miami. He's been in 3 detention centers in 90 days. Alligator Alcatraz to the Chrome Detention Center, then from Chrome to El Paso, and now from El Paso they're saying they might bring him back to Miami or they might make him go to Louisiana next. From Alligator Alcatraz, they moved him because they told him he was a liability. He's completely been denied medical care. He ended up almost dying. Because they were either under-administering or over-administering the insulin. And he kind of went into diabetic shock. My dad is a sick man. He's diabetic, he has neuropathy, he's schizophrenic, he has medical issues that are serious that require full-time care.
This is not to bait you, but I want to hear in your own words, why does your father belong in this country?
Because he raised me. And what I'm doing, that's what being American is. That's being patriotic, is standing up for the people who can't. That's what being an American is. And if I'm a reflection of everything good in him, that should be enough.
I had never heard anyone say what you said at that moment, and that stopped me. I remember having I remember thinking, wow, okay. I ask that question often to people, again, not to bait them, because I think it's just powerful to hear in your own words. The fact that he is American because he raised you, and what you're doing is the core and definition of being an American.
Liberty and justice for all. I mean,
yeah, you still feel that, of course, right? I mean, I would love for you to speak on it more.
I do. I mean, whenever I see pictures and clips of just any picture of my dad, I can't help but I just cry. Like, I break down because I miss him. And I feel like I've kept myself so busy during this whole process trying to find ways to advocate for him. And I've learned to find joys in the sadness and in the uncertainty and the fear. But I also know I have a duty as an American to stand for what's right. I know what my Constitution states, and I demand accountability from the elected officials and people in power. They took an oath to the Constitution. So how am I, just a regular citizen, an everyday citizen? How do I care more about the Constitution when I'm not the one who took an oath to protect it?
What's your this last question for me is, what's your message to people that are going to be heading into the ballot box this November, another consequential election? I mean, they all seem consequential. Everything is like the most major election in our lifetime. What is your message to people as they head into vote in November?
Vote. and look at everything going on around you and forget about your political affiliations. This is not a matter of politics anymore. This is a moral issue. Are you on the right side of the morals, or are you on the wrong side? This is a moral issue. This is about humanity. So I think people need to stop thinking that their political affiliations define them, and they need to learn how to change and adapt and see what the world is becoming and be part of the change. And I think young people need to be more involved and more informed in what's going on in their communities, and voting starts at the local level. And I, myself included, I wish that I would have started sooner, and I would have been more involved, and I would have been more politically aware. And that's why I think I'm pushing so hard now to make up for the times that I wasn't fulfilling my duty as an American. And, I want people to know that you're not alone. And I'm always like, I'm reachable. I'm willing. I'm open to people calling, texting me, messaging me. If you have a family member that's detained and you're scared and you want to know how you can, help or connect with other individuals in this situation. Here in Miami and elsewhere, I've seen how families of detainees are creating these networks. And especially like at Alligator Alcatraz, I am in chats with hundreds of people in them, and there are detainees in each unit. So whenever something happens at Alligator Alcatraz, you go into these chats, we discuss it, and then someone's like, oh, my husband's in Bravo 1, and he says this is happening. Oh, my husband's in Bravo 2, and then we get a full picture of what's happening. And I think this is something that they were not expecting. I think that they thought fear was going to continue to divide us, but it's uniting us. And this is what we need to continue doing. I mean, go out, protest. Do not let media fool you. The protests are not violent. The only people being violent and vicious are the ICE agents, because they're untrained goons who just want their little bonus. They have to meet a quota. And we've seen it. I mean, like, Christy Nome lied on their oath about that they have to meet a quota. I mean, Stephen Miller was tweeting about it. Like, it's just the lack of accountability in our political systems. It's not that they just overpowered everything. No, it's because we were not involved enough in what was going on around us. We became complacent that the system in place was working efficiently and was working for us. And we, the people, are not happy. And we, the people, need to take a stand, be loud, be proud, and be dedicated to our causes. Because it might not be affecting most people directly now, but it's coming.
Por eso decimos, solo el pueblo salva al pueblo. Only the people will save each other, and you're doing exactly that. You're doing your part. I know you're doing so much. Ariane, you said you're open to connecting. Part of what you're doing is that fellowship and building that community. How can people reach you? I know there's people that are watching this that are, or maybe even watching it on replay that are impacted by it.
My Instagram is public. You can message me on Instagram.
What is it? How do we find you? What's your Instagram?
So it's at Ariane with 3 E's. I'll put it. Let me see if I can edit my name now, and I'll change it.
Okay.
So
it's Ariane with 3 E's, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll share your stuff. It'll be out there. I'm sure the people will be able to find you. I have collaborated on a post, that story that we did. I tagged her in it. You could probably find her through my social media. Or you show how much younger you are than me and how quick you could do that stuff. Ariane, that's her handle right there across all social medias. Thank you so much, Ariane.
No, thank you, Nick. I mean, I was like, I love everything that you do. I love how you represent us and stand for us and for our communities. And I know in your position, you get a lot of heat for it. Like, people like me are proud to see people like you in these positions, speaking up, advocating, taking the risks, putting yourself out there, doing what you did in Minneapolis, doing what you're doing in Texas. It gives us hope. It reminds me that I'm not alone. And to see someone who looks like me and can speak like me, doing what they're doing for the community, this is God's work. I'm like, Amen. What you are doing, and I'm proud to call you my friend. I'm proud to be able to work with you and collab on this and to bring attention to the people that need it most.
It's for the people. That's
the
why
people.
we do it. Mary Ann Betancourt, thank you so much for taking the time with Nick Valencia Live. God bless you.
God bless you, Nick. See you.
I didn't mean to cut you off there at the end. This to me, you know, you may have noticed it when you first started watching the show that I looked a little heavy. Today I noticed it when I was looking back, especially in that interview with Chuck Rocha. He's so bright and shiny. I am in the last 24 hours really feeling the stuff that we see. I hate to talk about this stuff because you all know it's sad, and you don't spend an hour with me out of your day in order to talk about more sad shit. And so I try to do it in a way that is, you know, that's engaging for you, right? In a way that like you see stuff visually and you're just not up here hearing me whine and be this like whiny liberal guy or something, right? But the fact is, in the last 24 hours, I've heard some really courageous stories specifically about daughters and their fathers impacted by this. And being a girl dad, that stuff really resonates with me because part of why I'm doing this is because I know that one day my kids will figure out exactly who I am. And when they do, I know that they're going to be proud. You know, I know that my kids love me. And a couple weeks ago for Ricky's birthday, I dressed up like Spider-Man. And he really thought it was Spider-Man. And in that moment, I'm going to get through this without choking up. In that moment, you know, he took, one of the things he did is he took Spider-Man over to these awards right here. And he talked to Spider-Man about his dad and how his dad's the best journalist. I didn't even know he knew that word. I knew he knew I was a reporter, but he said, I'm the best journalist and I win awards and for helping people. And so even if they don't know exactly what we're doing, the kids are watching. Our children are watching. This show and part of this platform, we stand and are willing to die on this hill of protecting the most vulnerable. And for me, that starts with our children. Our children are the most vulnerable. And I'm doing this because we are hearing so many awful stories about what is being done to children in America under the banner of our flag. I want you guys to go, as we wrap up this show, check out my latest report out of South Texas, Dilley, South Texas Family Detention Center. They call it Dilley. That's where 5-year-old Liam Conejo Ramos was taken. It's also where you may have seen that drone footage that people thought was so haunting. It must have been AI. It was real. You know, that colorful people dressed in prison garbs and that drone footage. I don't want to use those words like concentration camps, but the fact is this is a place where people go to die slowly. There is no medical care in there that's worth talking about that actually even resembles medical care. I talked to you about in Camp East, Montana, they had measles for 4 months. We go in, we talk about it. Somebody goes in, they diagnose it as an outbreak, right? They've been having that outbreak for 4 months. In Dilley, they're not only not getting the proper food, children as young as toddlers are like violently throwing up regularly around in shared spaces, and the staff and the officials whose job it is to help them. This facility was intended for families. They don't do anything, and they just sort of walk as if it's as normal as a squirrel running by on the telephone line right now. You know, like it's just sort of part of everyday life. And that kind of stuff we need to continue to say, because that's not America. That's what America used to be. And I think about this J. Cole line, you know how much I love hip hop. And he says, you came a long way. The bad news is you went the wrong way, right? And we've come a long way since Japanese internment camps, but it seems in 2026, we've actually gone the wrong way, because we are literally building these facilities on the sites that were formerly Japanese internment camps. Think about that. That's not hypothetical. That's literally happening. And then I described to you all of these details, and it's just sad, you know? But our job as journalists is to report the reality, not what we wish the truth was. And right now, we have this rose-colored picture painted to us by DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, President Trump, Stephen Miller, Steve Bannon, Greg Bovino, Tom Homan, the list goes on. And they are telling their supporters to believe that they are doing right by people when we know that they are not. These are places where people go to die slowly. That's where I've landed. That's the conclusion I've landed on. That's my truth, and that's what the truth that you're going to get reported out here. I want to leave you with this picture because it's a theme about what we're talking about today. I saw it on History Cool Kids. I'll bring this up here. This is a cartoon from 1953, and it shows that not much has changed. And so you see all these fat cats at a table with endless amounts of money, stacks of racks and racks of cash, and you see all these tables like healthcare, the arts, the sciences, and they got no money. It's not the left versus the right or blue versus red. It's top versus bottom, guys. And I think a lot of us are stuck in the middle of that. It's hard to be passionately moderate. I started this program with the intention of trying to reach a lot of people, and knowing that I had a lot of people, on both left and right and everywhere in the middle. My first guest was Joel Cavazos, a Latino for Trump. And then within 12 hours, I got my first person that decided to say I was full of shit, and that if they wanted to see this both sidesism, that they can just go and go back and watch cable news. So I tried, I think, to find a voice here, and I've found it. And where I've landed on is that my professionalism is my credential, and that I just need to be exactly who I am. I don't need to be the person that somebody else wants me to be, or that somebody in my ear is telling me to be, or that you guys want me to be. That's the real trick in this content creator space, in this newsfluencer space, is to stay to your morals and to your principles. I was going to wrap up the show, and just as I was going to end the show, Mona Diop showed up. So I'm going to add her to the stage here, and I'm going to ask her a couple questions about what's going on with her son. And before we bring her on, I'll show you the story that we did on her son. They got the wrong one. Man with sickle cell disease fights for his life in custody. And this is Ibrahim Diallo. He suffered from sickle cell. It's a daily act of defiance. He's been here in this country since he was 5. He had a seizure, put him in the hospital, and it was during that his immigration status was revealed. We spoke to his friend, Clayton Hilliard, who voted for Donald Trump and has been strongly advocating for him. If you want to go back and read that story, you can. In the meantime, we want to introduce you here to his mother, Mona Diop. Mona, thank you so much for coming on the show. What's the status of you?
I'm very sorry. I was doing something and I just remember the time passed. I apologize about that.
Don't worry about it.
You've been a very supportive.
Oh, thank you. And I don't want to talk about me. I want to talk about you, and I want to talk about your son in the little time that we have. Tell me what the status is of your son and just the impact it's had on you.
Bad, very badly. Very, very badly. Because first of all, me not seeing him, me being separated with him for 18 years without knowing where he was. His dad took him away from me when we divorced. And the reason why I came to United States, it was to help him for better health. But things turned out to be like that. He's undocumented. I was undocumented for 20 years here, very afraid. But my daughter has a citizenship, so I was waiting on her to turn 21. So now I'm a green card holder. I think his dad is citizen, but I don't know nothing about the dad, so I'm just talking about him.
I mean,
so that's it. That's how
you thought that he was gone. You didn't know where he was. You separated from your husband.
I
took Ibrahim.
Took him away, and I thought he's gone. He's that because with the sickle cell anemia, the way why I brought him here, the reason why I brought him here, back home, I had money, I can do a lot of stuff. So He was 4 years. One night I took him to the hospital and they say he's dead. I say, no, he's not dead. And I heard people say, oh, the boy is dead. I say, no, my son is not dead. And that time, I had a lot of money. I can fly everywhere. I had big businesses. I was very entrepreneur, and I started it coming to United States in 1992, buying stuff, taking back home, selling, having stores, having a lot of stuff. So I decide my son health is better than that money. Okay, my daughter, I came here for in vacation in 1995, and I couldn't go back because they say I cannot fly back because I was really pregnant. So I decided to stay and have the baby. That was my daughter. She just turned 30. Ibrahima was 1 year at the time or two. And I say, okay, so I'm going to come back here and stay with my kids. The reason was not money, not nothing, but just to stay with my kids and help Ibrahima to grow because they told me he's not going to be past 7 years back home. He's not going to leave past 7 years.
And so
I
what's the
say,
status now?
devil is alive.
He went through a life. He had a great life. He spent a lot of time here in Roswell, Georgia. That's how we found out about him.
Yeah,
Where is he
yeah,
now? I last heard that
yeah.
he's
So
in Texas. Is he doing okay? What's his status of his health?
he's at the Prairieland Detention Center. It's somewhere called Alvarado, Texas. So I've been visiting him once every week or once every month. But the matter is just to give him food. I've been giving him $100 a week for him to eat because he need extra stuff. And he go to hospital a lot. He's there, but every month maybe he went 3 times or 4 times to the hospital. So now I just don't know what to do. Been paying lawyers left and right, left and right. I decide I couldn't. I had a beautiful home set up. I'm an LVN almost. I have a lot of credential in the nursing. I've been taking care of people, so I had people hosted in my home. 2 people. We got a nice house. Everything was great. He was helping me, driving the patient, doing. He even created the company for me. You know. Suddenly they pick him up since they came to my house. He was sick. He came back from Georgia the 13th of April. And the 14th of April, 13th night, I heard noise. He was living in the top. I run there and I see him having a seizures. And that time, my wrist, my left wrist is broken. When somebody has a seizure, you just need to help them and help them before they get hurt. Now I
He
decided to call the ambulance like I always did.
and can just seizure. Mona, we're having a little trouble with your connection, and so I'm not going to be able to. I think it's better just cut it short here. But the question I want to ask you before I let you go, if you could speak to President Trump, if you had his ear and he was in front of you instead of me right now, what would your message be to President Trump?
Hmm. Just to just rewind back and look at cases like Ibrahim. Ibrahim didn't come here by himself. I brought him here, and after that, I was afraid just to help everyone who need help. And
Mona
Ibrahim
Diop,
needed help.
Ibrahim does need help, and right now he's in the Prairieland Detention Center suffering from sickle cell disease. He hasn't been getting proper medical care.
Yes.
Mona has also been struggling financially, and full disclosure,
Yes.
she has a GoFundMe as well.
Yeah.
We'll share that on our page. And for those of you who feel potentially compelled to help Mona out, we've shared her link before to help out with legal fees, and that's helped a little bit. Anything, you can clearly see it's impacting her, not just emotionally,
Thank you.
spiritually as well. So thank you so much, Mona. And I'm sorry about the connection. We really appreciate you joining, though. That was Mona Diop, the mother of Ibrahim Diallo
You're welcome.
is in custody right now in the Prairieland Detention Center, and that is our show. Thank you guys very much for joining and for sticking with us through, this new format that we have going on, where I'm running it and hosting it. God, man, what a day! Go do something that makes you feel good about yourself, and do something that makes you smile. Whenever I feel overwhelmed, I look down at where my feet are, and I look up around, and I realize that the world is not as chaotic as it might be in my mind. And right now that doesn't really reflect, because there's huge construction and there's like a bobcat and a bunch of cement chopped up on my block right outside. So the world is like literally chaotic out my front door, but we'll pretend and close our eyes that we're in a awesome and better place. Thank you guys for being with me, for sharing, liking, subscribing. If you're watching this on the replay and you want to see that, right there, that QR code, that's to donate, so you can continue to fund this independent journalism that we're doing, and we could be out there in the community where we belong, telling stories. That's our show for today. Thank you guys, as always, for helping us make truth go viral. And as always, have a great day on purpose. Outro.